Thank you. We have a quorum. Public comment. It's your opportunity for a first public comment. Please state your name and what township you're from.
Kevin Cotter. I'm from Grass Lake Township. I have a letter here that, because of the agenda that I just noticed last night, I'd like to read, so if you bear with me. This is regarding the acquisition of Camp Tatonka. I have delayed writing this letter while I try to gather some information to understand both Jackson County governmental structure and process, and also to hear about some of the specifics of the proposal that's been submitted to the Boy Scouts for potential transfer of Camp Tatonka. While trying to keep an open mind about the county proposals, my concerns are as follows. Number one, taxes are already too high. We're being constantly bombarded with tax propositions, and while I understand the need for police, fire, roads, government buildings, salaries, and all that, do we really need another county park when a nonprofit organization wants to take over for the stated benefit of youth at no additional cost to taxpayers? Number two, more parks means more taxes. In the proposal submitted to the Boy Scouts, the county lists multiple recreational opportunities that would require significant changes to the property. It defies belief that the county can acquire a parcel this size, not have to use significant money to both improve the park and support additional load on the rated infrastructure. Loads on the road, the sewer, water, etc., in order to provide the multiple recreational opportunities that are listed in their proposal. Number three, grant money for maintenance is in no way assured and usually comes with restrictions and cost sharing. Number four, the longer parks plan seems to be shifting to a net income model. So what happens to all the money in the losing little local parks? Are they going to go away? I think that this should be adequately addressed in the longer term plan. Number five, charitable donations of both time and money have a limit. With the Cascades and other charitable park projects being a beneficiary of this limited bucket of charitable giving, is now the time to ask those charitable people and their giving for yet more. With these stated concerns, and considering the fact that there are only two proposals that were submitted to the Boy Scouts, I would like to advocate for the following course of action. I think that the Jackson County Commissioners and the Parks Board should advocate for the Friends of Camp Tatonka to initially get the camp. And if, has been stated to me, they're not up to the task, then at that point it would revert back to the county to become a park. This course of action by the county would provide several benefits. Number one, time for the county to complete some of the other numerous parks projects currently planned or in progress that are already using the limited donated and paid resources that are available to them. Number two, time for the county to adequately explore and secure commitments for the funding sources that they mentioned in their proposal. Number three, the opportunity for the Friends of Camp Tatonka to prove or disprove their ability to manage the camp for the benefit of use without costing taxpayers additional taxes. And last but not least, number four, the opportunity for the Jackson County government to show that they are willing to work with residents as well as charitable organizations to enhance the quality of life and the concerns for their constituents, and not be perceived to be working against their constituents solely for their own personal greater political gain. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Joy Miller, and I live in the city of Jackson, and I'm a friend of Camp Tatonka. And there's just a couple things that I wanted to say about that today. One is I wanted to remind you about our Friends of Camp Tatonka meeting, which is Wednesday night, tomorrow at 7 at the Consumers Energy Innovation Center. And you're welcome to come at 7. And then at Camp Tatanka, which I would really, really love to see you come there, at 7 o'clock on Thursday evening this week, the Michigan Crossroads Council is coming to talk to the residents. And I think it would be really helpful for you to be there to hear the concerns of the residents so you can address them. The other thing I wanted to share with you is I don't think this has to be a winner-loser situation. I read your proposal. I see more common ground than places where we disagree. I think it could be a really wonderful partnership. And so my request, challenge, invitation, however, suggestion would be to maybe look at, if the camp is conveyed to the county, what would partnership look like for the Friends of Camp Tatanka? Could that happen? If it's conveyed to the Friends of Camp Tatanka, what would the county partnership look like then? Is that even an option? Is it on the table? I really do see that there is value in sharing this responsibility. I think that together we could provide a better, even better program. A lot of other partnerships are being developed as we go along. I just see that there's a great opportunity here to make this a really wonderful thing without hurting anybody. So we could have a great program for youth. We could have taxpayers happy. Friends of Camp Tatanka is a wonderful organization, and I just really invite you guys to come out and check out the organization, check out the camp, and see what you think afterwards. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, Mr. Overton, your meeting.
Thank you. Up next, we have a presentation by Jim Latham, the Finance Director. He's going to just give us a quick brief on the budget.
Purpose today is just to give you a brief status update and also to communicate with you what's been happening up to this point in time. So as we start here, this is the budget as it's being proposed based on department requests. What you'll note here, you compare the total revenues with expenditures. We're going to be using, based on this proposal, reserves of $1.2 million. This is an increase from last month. If you recall, we were talking about the use of a little over $1 million. So there's an additional $248,000 or so net. This is net of revenue and expense that we would have to address. And again, this is based on department request. At this point in time, we've met with every department and at least had the initial discussion about their proposal. Just to review some history, looking back again to 2015, we finished the year $68,000 to the good, but we still use reserves of $1.2 million. And again, this is the same as disclosed last month. However, the audit has been finalized, so the 1.2 is a solid number. If we look at the projected fund balance for the future years, again, you'll see that 1.2 was used in 15. Our current amended budget for 2015 provides for use of $705,000 of reserves. And based on the budget as it stands right now, we're going to be using the $1.2 million in reserves in 2017. At the end of 2017, we project the general fund balance to be almost $10 million. 9.9 million. This leaves us zero above the 24% level based on your board policy. Last month, the number based on 2017 budget was about 248,000. If we look at some of the budget drivers, there's a couple of new things here. The recent development is that the State of Michigan Department of Corrections are going to be removing the borders that we've had at the Chanter Road facility. And they're starting to do this process right now. If there's a transfer out of our facility, they don't bring them back. So we're going to see some attrition and some reduction in the revenue starting immediately. But for 2017 and beyond, what this means is a reduction in gross revenue of over $558,000 for the year. However, the sheriff has looked at the situation, and by reduction of associated expenses and some enhancement of other revenues, he believes that the net effect of this will be a reduction of approximately $89,000 for the year. The reduction in expense does include a reduction of one person in the jail facility. And of course, the less medical, less other costs associated with that. There's also some additional revenue that the sheriff has proposed in that. Other items to point out, due to the Headley Amendment and Proposition A, our property tax revenues, the increase is limited to 0.3%. 0.3% of our total property tax levy, the increase, only amounts to about $65,000. So that's the only increase. Our largest revenue source of over $21 million is only going to go up by this amount. As previously discussed, we have some additional expenses, which seems like always the case here. Our required annual contribution to the defined benefit plan went up by $290,000 from the year before. And this, in total, the amount exceeds $6 million for the county's portion of that. We're also seeing the full effect of the airport and Honeywell Energy Project debt service. That's been a phase-in. We completed the Honeywell project back in 2014 and 15. The airport runway project, I'm told by Kent, is almost finished. And so, but we're saying in 2017, it's a full annual expense of interest and principal on the two bond issues that we have there. So that means that the general fund is paying us $650,000 for both of those bond issues. We also, in total, we received around $450,000 additional costs from departments based on their proposals, some of which were already in the budget and some of which are not currently in the budget. These include some additional FTEs and some additional expenses that we may have to incur. As far as what we have to do for the future is we still need to do further review with departments to review their request and discuss those items that we can eliminate or adjust. We also need to review any additional FTEs that have been requested. And we also need to strategize to fill this gap. When we started the year, when we were looking at the 2017 budget last year, again, the use of reserves was just over $1 million, and now that's creeped up by, let's say, $250,000. So we need to deal with that and see if we can close that gap. So this is what we're going to be doing in the next few weeks to bring to you some choices for you to make those hard decisions. And again, this everybody likes this chart. I just throw this in here for your information that tells you where the money goes, which departments require the largest funding, and so forth. And again, I remind you of the budget calendar that we'll adopt the budget in September. And so, again, this is just a brief update of the status and try to give you insight into what we've been dealing with. Thank you.
More for Mike than Jim, I think. I'm disappointed on that revenue loss. Mike knows that I heard pretty firm information about 2 months ago that that was going away, and I called Mike up and told him that, and Mike checked and didn't think it was going to go away at that time, I guess. But so I guess I'm surprised by that hit, but I think what we're not realizing is it's going to hit this budget year too, is it not? I was of the belief that it was going to be completely gone after October, and if what Jim said is they're starting to pull prisoners now, correct?
That's correct, yes. I'm not sure how many at a time they're pulling, but I would anticipate, I'm not sure there's a firm date, unless, I'm sure the sheriff could address that, if there's a firm date when all the prisoners will be gone. But yes, it would have an effect this year.
I was told that it started a couple of months ago and it was going to be completed before October 1st.
Okay.
So I, I guess if we confirm that date, if that would be good, because if they are all gone by October 1st, that's going to be a whole different deal for us for this budget year, is it not?
Well, it'll be.
Right. Right. And so do we know what the population numbers are going to be, or how, do you know how many we were boarding to attain that 585,000?
Yeah, it seems like it's 35 or 36 in total.
All at Chandler Road, probably?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
If I may.
Chair?
Jim, you don't reflect any of the savings we got from Honeywell in this right now. You just show it as an expense item. I thought there was an additional offset we were receiving overall to impact the budget.
Yes, there is, but again, Mr. Chairman, that's hard to identify. That savings is reflected in a reduction in utilities. But utilities also change based on the weather. If you have the hot summer, you're going to have higher utilities. So also the intent of the savings would be what, over a 10-year period. So we're paying the debt service on it, but then the saving is over a 10-year period. But you are correct. But what I'm saying is it's hard to quantify that.
Although yet they do quantify it ultimately because
Yes,
they
Honeywell
have a
has.
guarantee.
Yeah, Honeywell has to do that, and I've asked questions, well, how do they do it? Because they're the ones that propose the contract, and I'm not sure of the answer. But they have, I guess they have their own way of measuring that, usage and so forth.
One thing I would add is, I know it gets old. We've been cutting the budget now for, well, long before I got here, frankly, probably 7, 8 years you've been cutting budget. And you've cut millions out of the budget and scores of FTEs, and we're still not there. But in reality, we balanced the budget more than once. Every time we get the budget balanced, the state, I hate to say it this way, but the state imposes some other unfunded mandate. I know of a few coming down the pike that may hit us in 18, potentially even 19. There's legislation in the state currently that they're looking into. I know different committees, the judicial committee's looking at one in particular of taking the 17-year-olds and taking them out of prison and putting them back into our system. Our calculations between the additional parole officers, magistrates, and needs of those individuals, that could boost our cost by $1 million all in 1 year. Granted, I understand some of the logic and everything, but the problem is, it just always seems to be the case. You know, the counties, and not just us, counties across the state, and municipalities, other municipalities, are continually reducing, cutting, dare I say increasing taxes, but some have tried, some have. because the state keeps making changes, and again, half of them I agree with, but nonetheless, it puts a real financial bind on the counties to try to meet that. Yes, sir.
I don't have the slide up here in front of me, but I think if that plan comes to fruition, we'll end up with a balance of, what, 9 million in our fund balance?
Yes, right.
And that's what puts us right at 24% then?
Correct.
Yep. The other item,
Our budget's not increasing, but I hear you.
yeah, if we want to,
No, hang on a second. We'll talk about it.
okay, sorry, if we want to talk about other items, there's also discussion of the public defender situation that the state may require additional costs there, depending on whatever system is set up, whether there's a permanent defender system with regular employees or some other form. And again, there's talk that the state will make us whole for the additional cost, whatever that means. So,
Yeah, no, I was going to point that out as well. The public defender system that they're working on, even if they make us whole on the cost of the actual attorneys, public defenders, it's unlikely they will make us whole on the additional costs associated with that type of activity, be it expert witnesses and those kind of things that are all involved in court. Our costs could go up substantially there. Yes, sir.
I would like to comment, if I may, Jim. You've done an excellent job this last year with our 2015 budget audit. 1 and 2, I read the letter from Moody's and Standard & Poor's, and the AA steady rating that Jackson County has received is one of the highest in the state of Michigan. And I think that your office should be commended for the work that you have done and the importance that the Board of Commissioners have done to keep us in a very good financial position.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If there's, yes, sir, John.
I know as the budget goes, this seems like a small amount, but $31,500 for veterans' flags. Is that, that seems like a lot of flags. We burying that many veterans every year?
No, but we buy flags to put on graves.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I thought you meant full-size flags.
No, these are the little, yeah. We buy large quantities of them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. We look forward to seeing you again in a couple weeks on this. Next up, we have Jeff Hovarder. He's going to give us his presentation of the Camp Tatanka proposal that was submitted. Thanks.
Thank you. See if I can manage the technology. Yeah, these are just more visuals as I talk, because the proposal is lengthy and you don't want me to be here all morning. So I'm basically going to give you the highlights of what we submitted on your behalf. Jim's budget, the timing of that with this is interesting, because I want to point out that something you all know but should be stated publicly anyways, which is ultimately we either have to grow our way out of these issues or we can continue to cut as a county. But in my 40 years in government, I've never seen an organization successfully cut its way out of this process. The more you cut, the fewer services you have, and the fewer services you have, ultimately, the more people leave your community and seek quality of life elsewhere. So it's important when we obviously look at this thing in the long term, financially, how the county moves forward. Quality of life, attracting more people to our community and growing our tax base is real important. And Camp Tatanka plays a role in that happening. So let me go through some of the highlights. For those, for the record, we're looking at 240 acres located east of Michigan Center. The purpose of this proposal is to operate a 18th, if you count the Falling Waters Trail, an 18th county park. It would be unique. We do have facilities that we charge for, that we refer to as special facilities. Obviously, Cascades Golf Course. Okay, sorry. You're asking for talent. I'll let him. Yeah, we just need to pop it from the slide to the full. Just see if it there we go. Slideshow. That's what I would have done. That's what I would have done right there. Anyways, let me carry on. So it is for the purpose of operating a county park, but this particular park we're proposing would be the first pay-to-use county park. Now, pay-to-use county parks are not unusual. More than half of the counties in the state actually do charge for use of their county parks. Their construct is a little bit different than, or the types of county parks they have are a little different than ours. We tend to have quite a few county parks that are smaller acreage, that's set in residential areas around lakes, not parks of this size. The county parks that tend to charge tend to be more in the 150 acre and above range. So it isn't unusual, but it would be a first for Jackson County. And we do charge for facilities. We have the Cascades and we have our golf course are both special facilities, and this would fall in that category. It would be different than our other county parks. It would be a special facility that would, as a result, need to generate some of the revenue to pay its expenses. The camp, if you haven't been out there, features a number of facilities, and let's see how we're going to make this go forward. Just like that. So you can see the location of Camp Tatanka, as I mentioned earlier. This is a reduction for you all in the number of camps. The state has been closing camps for a number of years, and so there were many more camps. Michigan Crossroads Council has been closing camps for a few years now as they try to right-side their financial situation. They basically, as they've said it to us, have too much infrastructure for the number of participants that they have in their programs, and so they're trying to right-side their operation from a financial standpoint. Okay, so as you look at Camp Tatanka, there are a brand new dining hall. I say brand new, it was built in 2005, 2006. It's been open roughly 10 years, known as the Weatherwax Center, so you can figure out who one of the major donors were. It's in excellent shape. Will hold up to 250 people. We did the measurements. The main dining area is roughly 65 by 55. And then there's a attached outdoor covered area that is roughly 65 by 50. That will support nearly 250 additional folks in group setting. There are a number of other outbuildings on the property that include family cabins, smaller A-frame cabins. They've taken the building that they used previously before the Weatherwax Center was opened and have begun renovating or converting that to a larger group camp opportunity. There is water, interestingly, and electricity to the cabins. They're not connected, but we have discovered there is water at both of the family cabin areas. They just have not taken advantage of it. And then there are a number of group camp sites, as you can see, located on the property. There are a number of trails. There's a shooting range, and There's a gathering area for group activities, and there's an outdoor chapel area. There's also a master quarters, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home located at the site, and then there's a number of very good quality maintenance buildings on site that have been well taken care of. So visually, you can see the entrance to the park. It's almost a quarter of a mile from the road to the initial cabins that you'll be looking at. On the 18th of last year, the Crossroads Council actually took a vote and made a decision to close Camp Tatanka. You can see the reasons, but most of them were low population density around the camp service area, lack of summer camp operations, significant underutilization, proximity to other camps, and lack of financial stability as reasons for shutting down. According to the camp's 2014 weekend capacity and utilization report, Camp Tatanka was operated at 15% of its capacity. 15% of its capacity. So they had room to grow, or have room to grow, by almost 85%. So that gives you a sense of how and why they're making the decision that they're making. Their words, not ours. The mission statement for Jackson County, why are we thinking about adding this to the parks that we have? Your mission statement: Jackson County government, in cooperation with community and local government units, strives through a planned process to deliver quality services that address public need. That's your broad mission: quality services that address public needs. Your core values include a healthy community. Jackson residents enjoy phenomenal health through affordable, accessible health care, community commitment to wellness, and increased public recreation options. Culture and recreational opportunities. Jackson County's wealth of cultural opportunities, recreation activities, community amenities, and neighborhood environments make it one of Michigan's most desirable places to live, work, and play. That isn't who you are currently, that's who you want to be. And then last, the Jackson County 2015-2019 Parks Master Plan. Its vision, goals, and objectives include provide all persons with a variety of well-maintained, programmed parks, recreation areas, and facilities at the community and regional level throughout Jackson County. Develop park opportunities as they arrive. Opportunities for acquisition and development of new parks should not be ignored. Protect natural resources, provide a venue for new recreation facilities which cannot be accommodated in any other existing park, take advantage of opportunities. The county may wish to take advantage of opportunities to develop new parks when they arise. So those are really the basis for this proposal. Those are the things that lay in your broad planning processes and indicate that we should take advantage of this opportunity and submit a proposal. The acquisition strategy that we've laid out involves leveraging the appraised market value of the Camp Tatanka property and its permanent improvements and applying for a land acquisition grant from the Natural Resources Trust Fund, which is administered by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. In essence, we're going to use the land as value, apply for the grant. We've had success in receiving these types of grants. I've talked to the Department of Natural Resources. This project fits very well with what they've been doing for more than 3 decades in terms of funding acquisition of quality property like this in Oakland County, Huron-Clinton counties, Grand Traverse County, Genesee County, so forth and so on. That fund, by the way, has a corpus of nearly $850 million. It's funded by oil and mining rights. It's dedicated in the state's constitution by the voters of the state. It can't be touched for any other purpose but for acquisition and development of state and local parks. So we're one of the, we are the only state in the country that has such a fund or mechanism. As a side note, I might mention Legislators have tried over and over again through the legal process to access it to pay for a number of other things politically, and have had no success. It is locked up very, very well and continues to support our state and local parks. You have to have you have to be a political jurisdiction of government, and you have to have a approved master plan in place, which means you as a local body have to approve the plan, and it has to be stamped and approved by the Department of Natural Resources. And at that point, you're eligible to apply for grant dollars. We meet those criteria and are eligible. The appraised value would then, those dollars, we're successful with the grant, we would be able to buy the property. The dollars then in this proposal, it's suggested, would flow into the Jackson Community Foundation and Trust, that the Michigan Crossroads Council would agree to that, and then those dollars at the point that the land was transferred would be returned to the camp to be used for improvements and future operational needs. And then in order to pull this off, it's a 2-year process. The county and the Michigan Crossroads Council would need to enter into a short-term operating lease for, excuse me, 2017 and 2018. And then that lease would dissolve as the property was transferred. The issue of equipment and furniture, vehicles, all of those things that aren't attached to the building or property permanently, we were asked as a part of their request for proposals to make an offer. We've been out and made a complete assessment of those things and have proposed offering a sum of $25,225 in total for those items that would be considered furniture, fixtures, and equipment. We also are asking that transfer of oil rights and the current royalties agreement be transferred to the county, and that we would receive the income. Now, that isn't generating at roughly $2.25. I guess we're down to $2.09 a gallon as I was coming into town. We're not generating the kind of income that it once was generating at that $3.50 to $4 range when gas was at that price. But it does generate a modest income that we feel would be important to stay with the park. Not to mention that long-term, if we own the property, we want to own what's underneath of it also. That just is good business. The proposed services include a variety of day-use activities. I would anticipate that the majority of the users would be day users, not overnight stays, although there are, again, quality camping opportunities that we don't currently provide, and as I look at the market, aren't currently provided in abundance, and that's cabin camping. So if you don't own an RV and you don't wish to tent camp, this particular park would be unique in that there would be a variety of ability to be in an indoor structure, a cabin, and a variety of sizes and types, and stay overnight. So again, it makes it unique in that respect and opening it up to families to use. But I would expect most of the use to be day use, to use the park for hiking, biking, a variety of fitness activities. There would be a number of events that could and would happen in the Weather Wax Center as special use activities similar to the way we rent shelters now for family reunions, and the things like the Clark Community Center get rented for a number of private events and activities, wedding receptions, and such. And so that activity would take place. The Boy Scouts and other youth camp groups, we would, and this is modeled after a couple of the other camps that have been closed and taken over by the public institutions, where areas dedicated to those specific youth camp groups would remain and be available to them for use. In our discussions with the Michigan Crossroads Council, there was clearly a concern, as I conveyed to the Park Commission, that we not make that free, which has happened in at least one instance in a land transfer, because it then begins to compete against their Boy Scout camps that do exist, and obviously, as they examine the proposal from their business standpoint, they don't want to create competition that's going to draw use away from their Boy Scout camps that remain open. So there is an expectation that although we'd have a dedicated area, that it would, there would be a fee attached to that. The pricing plan involves a daily fee that also allows for security. I'll mix those together. So there would be a front gate as we've proposed it, and there would be a park ranger, similar to entering a state park system, who would check you in. You could buy an annual park pass at a modest fee of $20 for the entire year, which would allow you to come as often as you would like. It would be a car sticker that would be on your windshield. Or you can pay for a day use, which would be by the car, not by the number of people that are in the car. And again, I would see those. We based our numbers on a roughly 10% market penetration. Simple modeling would involve the 160,000 residents we have, which would quickly get to 16,000 uses a year. And then we look at those as percentages and how they break out in day use and annual passes. And that's how we get to some of our financial numbers. And then there's a number of other types of fees related to renting shelters, renting the Weather Wax Center, so forth and so on, camping fees. Like I said, we'd have a park ranger at the gate. Our expectation here would be different than our other parks, that we would need a higher level of security, both because of concerns that have already been expressed by a number of the neighbors and folks on the lake, but also because it's a larger tract of property and it's very remote. It's very wooded, I guess is the best way to say it, with a number of trails. So we would have at least one other park ranger mobile and moving on site. And we may add, as I've put in the budget, additional support during the heavy use periods, which tend to be holidays and weekends in general. We already have an existing county head ranger who moves from park to park and has direct contact with the sheriff's department. We possess emergency communications and would use those. And then the question of what governs in terms of rules, the Jackson County Park ordinances that currently existed, that you all have adopted, would be the overriding ordinances that relates to behavior and expectations in this park, as we do in all of our county parks. We would have on-site staff. We would have a on-site year-round caretaker, as the park currently has, as well as a park manager. Those would be the two full-time positions. There would be a sundry of other part-time staff that add up to about 14 and a half full-time equivalents, but those are all seasonal or casual workers that would work in the park at various times of the day and year. And then you'd have the county park staff, myself, and our park planner, our administrative assistant. You then have the support, which makes us a very good candidate. We have a lot of depth here with the facilities department, with the road, JDOT, our road folks. We have a lot of support, as we do in our current county parks. We work together as a team, and they support us in a number of ways that are invaluable in maintaining infrastructure and particularly roads and buildings. The financial plan, although laid out very specifically about where revenue and expense exist, it isn't an expectation that this park would pay its own way, and much as our other 17 parks don't pay their own way, and that there would be some support from the county's general fund that's consistent with the county commission's vision. The last but not least is there are some efficiencies that would develop that we did not fully delve into in this proposal, but given the quality of the maintenance facilities at this site. It would allow us to create an east and a west complex for our maintenance rather than everything coming out of the Cascades, which would drastically reduce our distances and timing of moving crews to parks for maintenance and mowing, which should reduce some of our overall manpower and certainly reduce the amount of equipment that we would have to have available to move. We spend roughly, if you want to think about it, we spend roughly a fourth of our time actually mowing and cleaning and repairing parks, and we spend almost 3/4 of our time traveling to those sites, just given the distance. And most folks don't think about it in that terms, but the more we can cut down on the travel time, the more efficient we can be in maintaining the parks and the better job we can do. So in summary, why does it make sense for the county to be owners of this property? Quite frankly, this group has not sold a county park, from what I can tell in history, in the last 100 years. And the land is most protected from private sector development long-term in our possession because we're not in the business of getting rid of parks. We're in the business of maintaining public spaces for public good. It provides the greatest benefit in terms of public access and enjoyment of an environment. This really is, given the two proposals that have been submitted, this is really about inclusion versus exclusion. And when I say that, I keep hearing the issue of youth and that this is about youth. But remember, only about 5% of the youth in this county belong to a club that would be eligible to use Camp Tatanka today. That means 95% of the youth are excluded. So it's not just about adults getting access versus it being a youth camp. It's about a very specific group of youth versus all youth. Most youth would be excluded, are excluded today from Camp Tatanka and would be in the future under any proposal except the one for the county. The county is in the business of making sure all 160,000 of our residents have access, and that's why it makes sense for us to possess the park. The county has the greatest capital resources long-term to invest and maintain in the park. The county has the short-term cash flow, which is always an issue in businesses like this. It isn't just, can I raise money, but it's the cash flow issue of when I raise it, when I got to pay my bills, and that's where almost every small business runs into trouble. The county doesn't have that issue. We have plenty of cash flow to support the highs and the lows of an operating season. The county has the staff depth. This is what we do. We have some great talent. We've been doing it for more than 100 years as an organization. The county is a representative government, which means the public are the real owners of the property and have a voice through you all. And then the county, with its 17 other parks, has extensive experience managing and maintaining large parcels of land, building structures, utilities, and lake frontage. We're very experienced in managing large group activities, special events, and campgrounds. Those are the reasons. That is the proposal, and I'll entertain any questions. Yes.
I've got several. Jeff, you kind of went past it, and I wasn't sure if I heard you right, but you anticipate fees supporting the complete operation, is that?
Not complete operation. There's a expectation that the general fund would provide support. The budget that's in here right now shows that support at about 75. It's a $309,000 projected budget, and about 75,000 of that would come from the general fund as a revenue source.
Okay, and then the capital improvement plan you've laid out, I did quick math on that, that's about $2.5 million, does that sound right?
Yeah, and that's why it's a plan. It's here's, in the ideal situation, the things that we would build out, what we would do, and that's why I put a number of caveats, that it's just a plan, it hasn't been adopted, no one's funded it, and some of that would need to be funded initially, and that's the idea behind the land sale and extracting money out of the state trust fund. That those dollars then could be used to support some of that initial infrastructure.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how our current capital improvement plan would be impacted by this. If there's grants or something that offset it, that's different. You've mentioned in the proposal, JC Dot taking care of the roads there. That's not for free, that, they're supported by Act 51 money, so we'll have to pay for that, I assume.
Right. When I say that I didn't say them taking care of it on a day-to-day basis. They don't take care of any of our current parks day-to-day. They're a great resource because they can do it for us at a cost that is frequently, and in a timing, in a schedule that's frequently more advantageous to us. So they do that on our current parks and parking lots and roads that we have, and have been a great partner in that regard.
And then last two questions for me. I looked through the rates on page 21, and where did we come up with those at? I mean, if we use comparisons from other places.
I looked at states, I looked at other counties, I looked at the private sector, so I have quite a bit of data that I did research on in the market area to determine.
Are the RV lots full sewer, water, electric hookup or not?
They are not full. There would be a dump station, so rather than, which is what we do at our current campsites, electricity would be available and water, and both of those are, the water's available now, the electricity would be part of that initial build-out. So in years 1 and 2 in the lease, there wouldn't be any RV camping because we wouldn't make that investment until we knew that the grant had been approved and we were going to have the dollars coming on the backside to help. But the main power is there, but the actual power pods that they would plug into would have to be built out.
And then last two questions from me, kind of related to the rates. How would you plan on marketing what we have? I mean, and I don't know what you're anticipating as an occupancy rate to make it meet the budget you've got, but how would you market this?
Well, I used, first of all, the occupancy. I used, there's a variety of different revenues coming in, but in terms of the camping, I used a very low occupancy rate, about 30%. The number that is typically used in the industry is about 60%. You shouldn't ever plan on more than 60%. 60 is about the average. 50 is what a lot of folks use, whether it's a hotel or a campground. It's pretty consistent during the season in which you're operating. In this case, we view the season as May 1 through the end of September. You do get some camping and can have camping in April. You can have camping in October, and quite frankly, as I indicate in the full-blown proposal, we would be open to winter camping, although these cabins are not heated. A number of groups do still winter camp, and we wouldn't exclude that, but I didn't count on that as a substantial revenue source. So it's not in there. You asked the first part of that question, and I got waxing on.
That's okay. Last question for me. So on-site, it's not municipal sewer, not municipal water. It's all on-site. Septic tanks, I assume.
No, there's a regional sewer main that comes through, and there's actually a full lift station and backup power. I mean, it's on a regional sewer system.
Okay, and well water, though, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Columbo. One last question. Jeff, have you considered a two-tier admission price, one for county residents, one for non-county?
I did not put it in this proposal because it's a policy issue that you all would have to decide, but that is not uncommon and could be considered. Yeah, I generally, in these kinds of proposals, don't include it until I know where you all want to go. I don't want to direct you that direction, but that is not uncommon.
Thank you. Might be Jeff, might be the administrator. I, like many commissioners, have received numerous emails and such, and which I have no problem with that. It's good that people are voicing their concerns and such. But one of the things I said I would ask is that I've heard everywhere. I've heard all the way up to like 85 acres was donated as part of this overall property, and that the acreage was donated for the purpose of what's been going on for years there at the camp. And that's why people donated for that purpose, and now the purpose is changing. So I've been asked what happens with the fact that they donated it for a different purpose.
That is an, oh, you want to answer that?
What I was going to do was refer to our resident Boy Scout expert Chairman Jotwell.
I've had conversations with the different organizations that donated property. Exchange Club went back just recently and did a recertification of their donation of their property and what they purchased. And some of the different individuals received cash settlements at the time from the Exchange Club for their property, and it was then turned around and donated to the Boy Scouts. And the Exchange Club has said that they're comfortable at the moment with this proposal, and we're not going to weigh in at all. One, two, I do want to clarify a couple of things for you, Jeff. There are heated buildings on the property that are set up for year-round camping, 3 of them if I remember correctly. But some of the questions came in was what the State Health Department had said about utilizing those buildings year-round, and I'm fully aware of that. 2, while it is a Boy Scout camp, it is currently can be utilized by other youth organizations if they're willing to pay the fees and follow the rules of the Boy Scouts. I know that right now Latter-day Saints have a girls program that goes on for 1 week at camp. So there are youth organizations outside the Boy Scouts that do utilize it, but I do understand that it'll go from Boy Scouts and those select groups to the whole community 24/7, 365, which is a difference than what it takes to reserve the camp at this time.
Yeah, Chairman, jogged my memory. Jeff, you hit on this a little bit. There had been discussion along the way about blocking out time for scouts to use the camp. But I think if I heard you correctly, you said that they don't expect anything for free. They expect to pay for that time.
Yeah, the way it's laid out, they would pay the normal, which is the lowest camp rate we have in the fee schedule, which would be the tent camping rate, but it would be the same for them. Now, that's a policy decision that you all can make, and you could certainly alter that. My point I was making is in my conversations with the Michigan Crossroads Council in putting this proposal together, it didn't get past me that they were concerned that, I say it wrong most of the time, Camp Iguan up in Orion Township, which 2 years ago took possession of a 105-acre Boy Scout camp, cut a deal with the local Boy Scouts as a part of those negotiations with MCC, in which they made the camping free. The camps, if you go back, and went back to the map here, and you saw the camps that are north of it, there are 3 of them, I believe, all saw dramatic decreases in the Boy Scout camp use, and there was significant use of the Orion Township camping facilities because they were free. MCC made it clear to me, and they didn't make it official, it wasn't any documents, they just verbally indicated that was something they would like to avoid in the future and aware of as they transfer these properties to others.
All right. Thank you. And of course, as a way of information moving forward, Jeff will be at the meeting on Thursday night. As I understood it, Crossroads Council called that meeting?
Yeah, they called the meeting and asked, I assume, both parties that have made proposals, but at least asked me to be there to make a summary presentation of our proposal.
Yeah, that's what I was told as well, that they want you to come and summarize our proposal for them, which, is the next step, is what he'll do. We'll go from there. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other business anyone have? Anything particular? If not, second opportunity for public comment. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and township, please, or residence.
Good morning. My name is Terry Orbit. I live in Leone Township. I'm an adjacent property owner to Camp Tatonka. I have a farm next to it. I'm also here to represent, speak for the Cochran family, who Mr. Rice has brought up the fact that the donated land has come into a situation. My family has donated 45 acres of the property, and the Cochran family, along with the Exchange Club, has donated 85. That's over half the property on that camp. I've sought legal counsel, and they have said that we have probable cause to challenge this property being turned over to basically a public entity. The will intent of my family was to donate this property for environmental concerns as well as the youth. And I don't think that's what's going to happen when it goes to the county, because it's going to become a general public area. The will intent was for the youth. So the Cochran family, and I represent the Goodell family, which is part of my family, the Orban family, and we're looking into that very serious, that pursuing the possibility of obtaining that property back if it goes into the public world. The Boy Scouts vision statement states youth. The Jackson County Parks Recreation Committee does not mention much in youth. Let's not kid ourselves. This is going to become a public park. And $31,000 for flags, you're taking on a whole bigger burden here, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. You're taking on a whole bigger burden here. This is going to be a big financial hit on you guys. If anybody here thinks that the entry fee or for $20 or $2 is going to finance this park, it's just not going to happen. It's going to have to fill that park up with campers. It's going to have to fill the park up with people. That's my opinion. I know you have access to other funds in the general fund, but I hope you realize what you're getting into here. This is going to be a big deal financially on the budget. And again, this was intended to be for the youth. Within the proposal that I've reviewed, I'm not sure, I thought everybody on this board was behind that proposal that was presented here, but I just don't see where this falls into the youth of Jackson area, and that's why the legal counsel says we have justification to possibly pursue it. I hope you understand what you're getting into here. As a property owner right next door, I've got about a 100-acre farm right next to it, and we've got a large trailer court on the other side of it. Believe me, the more people we get around us, the bigger problems we've got. I've had to triple my liability insurance. I'm not looking forward to this being a public park. Thank you.
Mr. Schott, this is Joy Miller again from Jackson, and Mr. Shotwell did clarify that youth groups are welcome there. Under BSA policy, the fee structure was based on their rules. We are actively seeking partners with schools, and we want to open it up to as many youth as possible. We understand we cannot maintain that camp as Friends of Camp Tatanka on our own. So we're looking at school groups who do, the camp outs and whatnot. We're looking at the Latter-day Saints Church to expand their use. We're looking for more activities, more daytime activities for all youth, not just Boy Scouts. So just to clarify that is our goal, is to have those partnerships. And like I said, even the day use is a family thing where families are going out hiking and doing those things. That is awesome. We want people there. We want them to enjoy and appreciate it. I still think partnership is a viable option, even if it's conveyed to Friends of Camp Tatanka or the county. But I think we need to look at those options carefully so that there's more people who are satisfied with the outcome. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Commissioner comments? Commissioner Mahoney?
Good morning, everybody. For one, I just want to say good luck to everybody who has a primary out there, and don't forget to go out and vote today. Secondly, want to say, Jeff, thank you very much for the detailed information on the Camp Tatanka situation. In my opinion, most of the emails that I've read from people opposing the county taking over this park. To me, it just mostly sounds like they have a personal worry about what their personal property or what they're going to experience with the public having access to this park. Without it being free, in my opinion, I think that that should give you a little bit more comfort that it's not a free park, so you don't have to have the worry of the park being visited by people who aren't willing to pay for whatever their plans are for going onto the land. But in my opinion, to have 200 and something acres accessed by only 5% of the youth in our county is a misuse of land.
Any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, we are adjourned.